Out am I? You're live, but now we're live here at Ishook Comics Podcast with Mr. Blankenship. Did I say it right, Ben?
Yeah,
Yeah, I said it
absolutely.
good. And then we have Mr. Gary Vincent. He is another alternate Gary V, if you know what I'm saying. And then you have a good friend, Mike S. Miller,
Yes.
Mr. Miller. And by the way, Gary's Gary L, so it's GL. So
Jerry,
he's another Green
Gary
Lantern.
Lee.
He's a Green Lantern in hiding. But Mr. Miller is also here. So first of all, we have from Mr. Miller his burning. No, that's not him. Here we go. This is Mr. Miller, Lone Star Comics in left corner. And you want to watch Lone Star? I said it wrong. I said it wrong.
Lone
I said
Star.
it wrong.
It's a
I said it
typo.
wrong. Typo, guys. Typo. My fault. LONE, right?
Yeah.
LONE.
All right, there we go. I apologize, but the domain is that way. My typo. Anyway, so Lone Star, QR code right there in the left corner on the top. Please, everybody, support his comic like you support Super Black. Hopefully, better. Oh my God, where did he go?
Hopefully he'll be back.
All right, hopefully he will.
This kind of happened last week with Eric.
Yeah, it did.
Doing an Uber.
There we go.
Awesome.
Okay.
Yeah,
Gary's back.
Sorry, guys.
He is back.
Phone just dropped out of the blue for some reason.
It's all good, Gary. It's all good. It's all good. So you just moved your position. Maybe that wasn't.
He's an actor. He's got the drama down. I mean, that can't be taught.
So we have Lone Star and LoneStarComics.com. Everybody, please help our good friend, Mr. Miller. He's a good friend of ours now, and we appreciate him coming on our podcast. And then we have Burning Bulb. Did I spell that right? I believe I'm good, right? Burning Bulb Publishing. Also from Gary, our good friend Gary Vincent, GL Vincent. Please, everybody, support Mr. GL. And listen, we support comics. We support any creative work. And we're here at Ishook. Do not forget to get to our IshookComics.com and get our new Super Black hoodie. Ancient Gods of Egypt, Norway, and what was the other one? Norway and Greece. So that's our super hoodie, IshookComics.com. Everybody, please get in there. And hopefully we'll be able to also resell our friends' products if they allow us. We'll love to do that. So we're here today. Oh, someone scanned our QR comic. Look at that. Oh, look at that. That's cool. Anyway, guys, I appreciate everybody. Let's begin the journey. Ben, please introduce the good friends you have here. You know, because it is.
I am thrilled to have these guys here. Let me just do Gary first because I've known him the longest. We've talked for quite a few years. I get into writing horror books. Gary also writes horror books. He writes horror and theological books. He makes Christian and horror films.
Really?
It's no wonder that I love the guy as much as I do. So you know, things that either minister or that minister fear. One of the two. He was good friends with George Romero and is still good friends with John Russo. He has written a book about Night of the Living Dead, hands down what I would say one of the greatest horror movies, if not the greatest horror movie ever made. You know, they still make comics about Night of the Living Dead. Double Take. Really? I don't know if Gary, if you'd ever read that or not, but Double Take had a series of the Night of the Living Dead like universe. And it was like, this is what was happening over here and what was happening over here and what was happening over here. I think there was like 5.
We tried that too. We have an anthology called Rise of the Dead. And John Russo wrote the very first. In fact, the first story in it is called The First One, which is a backstory of how the first zombie that you see in the movie came to be. And then each of us writers would take our turn writing another thing that was happening on that very night back in the 1967, 68 when Night of the Living Dead was happening. So every story in there is happening on the same night.
That's awesome. Wow. I like that. And I can't remember what the
isn't it like 24? 24, the movie was also like the show, I mean, was everything in one day, right?
I love that. 24's concept was one of my favorite television series because I love the idea that you're watching it in pseudo real time. It's edited, of course, but you feel like the movie's really pacing along that clock. I like that a lot.
Not bad.
Like Rope.
Do you feel like Crack Coon would have a place in a comic book crossover? It's a record.
Yes,
crack,
it
y'all.
would.
It's one of his movies.
So I've actually got Crack-a-moles. There's like 7 of them now. Okay. So we've got Crack-Coon, which is a brainchild of me and Brad Twigg. He developed the movie version, and I helped him film it. and I wrote the book series alongside. And so the idea is we both have creative autonomy in the sense that he can make the vision for his movies whatever they want to be, and then me, I'm just writing stories, and if he wants to use parts of them, he can, etc. So, but Crack-Coon is one of those crazy stories that would make a phenomenally good comic or comic series if you take the whole Crackimals out, because you got Crack-Coon, Crocodile, Crack Squatch, Crack Roaches, um, uh, let's see, there's a Crackadillo, Crackaroo, and Crack Mammoth.
Wow.
That's wild time stuff. Now, the comics that you wrote, I think I'd seen like 4 or 6 of them or something. You got at least one that's a Western. Knock out what they're about really quick. Or the Western sci-fi.
Sure.
What have you got?
So basically, again, Burning Bulb Publishing, originally our focus, and still kind of is we viewed ourselves as a writers co-op, kind of like a farmers co-op, where we wanted to just collaborate with fellow writers and artists and now filmmakers to basically be a place where we could come up with neat ideas and not be so much tied to saying, well, in order to write for this company, we have to tone it down, or we have try to make a mainstream concept. We were kind of like, when we first started, we were kind of like the punk publishers, where people just had these edgy type of stories. And so one of the concepts that we did something called the Big Book of Bizarro. Of course, I had mentioned Rise of the Dead. And another one around that same time that we did was called Westward Hose. And it was a comedy satire thing where there would be a bunch of different short stories set in the Old West, and it had to have some kind of comical edge on it that would both mix sci-fi, Western, and of course hose or brothels or some kind of funny stereotype that you always hear about in the Old West, type of thing. And so that's how that came to be. And from that anthology, 2 comic books came about. One was from a short story that I wrote called The Talisman, and the other was from a short story that David Fairhead wrote called Demon Eye. And to Dave's credit, after these stories came out, we adapted them to comics. And then Dave went on to write another comic called Dr. Peeler, Demon Psychiatrist. So Dr. Peeler, I think, is going to have a second episode eventually, but that's kind of where we were. And one of our other writers from the Big Book of Bizarro, John Towers, wrote a graphic novel called The Ages. And so that's about the extent that Burning Bulb's done on the comic front. In both of the 2 from Westward Hose, David's and mine, we had to find writers or artists. I mean, in my case, I found an artist from England, Stuart Brown, who's really, really good. And then in David's case, we have a lady from Vietnam that helped drew the Demon Eye. So that kind of gave it a sort of an anime look, which I love. I love both of them in their own way. But yeah, that's the extent of the comics. And then besides that, we do novels, of course, at Burning Bulb Publishing. And then about halfway through the last decade, we got into filmmaking. So now we're doing a lot of film design as well as book to movie crossovers. So the space where comics exists also has a great place in this, I can see, because a lot of times the bigger productions, they storyboard. So any of these books could be adapted into both a comic series or be used for storyboarding through a comic narrative, or go straight to film if that's the case. So it's a nice little space to be in. Again, we exist to help other creative individuals just get together, help them with finding the resources they need, or if they just have a story they want to get published or a film to be made, we kind of can nudge them a certain way, or they can go on their own. Either way, that's kind of where we are.
Awesome. I appreciate that. And I've wrote a lot of literary books, and where I've written comics, people love that at literary things too, because you don't have like a lot of comic dealers. Now I've kind of stepped in that world. I'm really trying to focus a lot on that. Somebody had me trying to write a novel, but everything. Now there's a guy here who has spent a good amount of time in comics, Mike. Man, so Gary was talking about punk rock comics. You wrote Injustice. Do you get money off of the video game?
I didn't. I actually did get hired to write the video game for Injustice 2, but then they ghosted me after they loved it for some I think it had something more to do with politics than it did with the quality, because they were gaga over my story and then just ghosted me. And they paid me for it too. I'm still under NDA. I can't talk about it.
Oh, okay.
Wow.
But
It was
I'm
a catch and kill.
I was the artist. I was the artist on Injustice, not the
Oh, yeah.
writer. So yeah.
Wow.
But I do get royalties off of the comics, not the game.
That's awesome.
Interesting. And what's the difference between writing for a game and a comic?
Well, I basically wrote a movie style treatment for the story for the game. So what they would do with the game is they would just take that treatment and then they'd build the game off of the story, right? Comic wise, I mean, when you're doing periodical comics, like, you know, Injustice came out every week, so we had to have like, it was like 10 pages a week as a digital comic. So it equated to about 2 full comic books a month. I wasn't the writer on it, but I know how this works because I do write comics. You have to have your overarching story, and then you have to break your overarching story into digestible segments. So if you're doing 10 pages or 10, well, actually, when you're writing comics, it's funny because you have to write every page as a story, right? The page has to have an intro, outro, and it has to make you want to turn the page to the next comic, right? So you have to like think about that when you're designing pages as a writer. But then if you're doing 10-page increments, then you have to do that same thing again with the 10 pages. If that 10 page is going to be part of a 20-page comic, then you have to have these, right? You can't just stop in the middle of a scene and say, there's your 10 pages, right? There's your 20 pages. So like when I write my Lone Star books, I write them as 144 page stories, but I know that I want to have 24 page breaks or 24 page action pivots, so that if I do end up breaking them into 24 page comic books, then it all fits out.
I totally get that. And you know, you see, because I like review comics and all that. I'm trying to get like more into it by like reading and reviewing, and I'm tagging whoever, you know, AWA or whoever did the comic and whatnot. You see both styles. You see like a comic that's more like a soap opera, and you know how that goes. Like 5 years later, the people are still doing the same thing. It's like Dark Shadows. And then when I write them, I think if it was an episode of Smallville, you know, there's a story within that 24-page comic, and then you've got an arc that's like, you know, 5 comics longer, right, or whatever. So I mean, it's like I want something to happen enough that it can end, even if there's like a hook that it's still going on.
Right.
I get you,
you know, you remember Soap, the movie or the TV show?
I have the DVD series.
No,
they killed it. They killed it because I was like, that is one of the great stupid shows. I like The Ventriloquist.
Yeah, and for those who don't know, the last episode, they knew they were getting canceled, so they just made the last episode a cliffhanger for every storyline in the show.
Yes. the alien baby, and that she's lined up against the wall gonna get shot. See, you see that I've seen it. No, I loved it.
Spoiler alert to anyone who ever wants to watch the show now.
When was this even out? You're always
70s,
saying that
80s, I think.
Yeah, and something's been out for like, I mean.
Yeah, but you're also forgetting, Ben, in reality, a lot of people don't know certain shows. Like certain shows get like a cap. Even comics, there's like a cap of people who will ever know it, right?
Spoiler alert, I'm going to ruin any show that I even mentioned. You know, I just watched Fury Road, by the way, and it's almost like comics and all that, because people went off on like Furiosa. I watched Furiosa before Fury Road, and really? Furiosa is the prequel. Furiosa is the prequel to Fury Road, so it totally makes sense. You already know who she is if you were watching them in the order that they made. Like 9 years later, they made Furiosa. It's like a lot of comic book stuff, and you've got people that don't have any idea about it. It comes out into theaters, but when you're a true fan, it's like, they're not supposed to be that way.
I love Fury Road. It's one of my favorite movies.
Oh, it's awesome.
So Gary, what new projects do you have on the ropes? I mean, like, what's going on?
I just came back from San Antonio, Texas. My good friend Michael Ocha Torrena was down there working on 2 films. One's called Dumb Luck, and the other is called Alamo City Zombie. So I was down there, had a cameo role in both of those movies, and helped a little bit with the cinematography on Alamo City Zombie when I was down there. And so we're very excited for those to be coming out here probably in the next 3 to 6 months. Burning Bulb will be releasing those on our movie distribution side. So hopefully we'll get them out there on Tubi and the rest of the places.
Wow.
Nice.
Wow. Very nice. Very impressive. So those are the only two things. What about writing? Any new writing
Oh,
products?
Yes. So another thing that we're working on, a couple years ago, I developed a miniseries called the Black Circle Chronicles, and it was a 5-book miniseries. They're small novellas. It is a Christian themed apocalyptic style story, and it's basically like Ben was alluding to earlier, a science fiction or Christian fiction horror mixed in. So it has biblical a biblical motive to it, but it also has some science fiction and horror
It
elements.
sounds like The Stand.
Yeah, it's like The Stand. It's funny that you
Yeah.
mentioned because I'm also working on another mini series called The Last War that I filmed 1 episode in. I make it through at least 2 episodes. I think my character gets killed in episode 2, which tapes in about 2 weeks here, the first part of December.
Spoiler alert.
Yeah,
That is a big spoiler. That ain't even come out yet. I mean, like, you guys have no marketing skills at all.
I have requested
Corrected.
anybody that has me in anything. I want them to kill me brutally. Just have me walk in the door and just like shoot me. I think that's just great.
It's
You know,
kind of
just be the guy that kill.
in it, and Dean Cain, and my scenes are a lot with Richard Greco from 21 Jump Street, so I'm working with him a lot, and so that's going to be that's a new acting project that's also coming out. That one's being brought to us by JC Plus, which is a new JC Films. They do a lot of faith-based shows, but they wanted to dabble into something a little edgier. So The Last War is their mini. It'll have I think Eddie McClintock's in it. Julie McCullough, and I think Kevin Sorbo's also in it.
Kevin Sorbo, our good friend Kevin. We did a podcast last
I
year
did.
with him.
I did a podcast with Dean Cain.
Yeah,
I did
he's also
a
good.
So all these guys
concept.
are in this thing. Yeah,
Yeah.
the I think might be online right now.
Now, do you know that Dean Cain is now the Horseman? Are you aware of this? The Rippaverse? Do you know that they're casting him?
No,
Are
I
they
didn't know.
really?
Yeah. They had him on Eric July. The man just keeps
for
stepping it up.
animation.
Hey,
Yeah, for the animation, they're gonna have him as the voice of the dude. Now I read the book. I
haven't gotten mine yet.
I won't spoil it for you then.
Dude, you're like, I mean, I'm telling you, your nickname's got to be Ben the Spoiler. I mean,
but no, I did like the book. I liked the way that it went. It was a very full story. It was nice. It introduces his character. It's rightfully called Welcome to Floor Spark because it was his introduction to them. But yeah, they leave it open where they could do whatever with the character.
Nice.
now the QR code, guys. I'm sorry. I'm trying to QR everybody up, you know? Anyway, yeah, so definitely, I think, you know, the comic industry, I think, should be more emphasized to business players like me, where if you can invest a small amount on a comic to see the result of what it will produce as a movie. So if you have enough of following of a comic or something written down first, then you're more of a shoo-in when it comes into a movie, because then people will have to, you know, eventually watch the movie. They'll want to watch the movie. So, for example,
Well, that's where I was going to get at with my one mini series, The Black Circle Chronicles. We filmed one of those 5 narrative books, and it's called Prove Your Love, and it's on Tubi right now, but for free if you guys want to check it out. But I would like to see, part in the back of my head was I could see that being presented better as a comic book, at least as we look to make the rest of the miniseries, because I think comics allows people that are more visually attuned to enjoy it that way. And you're right, absolutely right about that. That for people that might want to either invest in it or go with something bigger for the film or the miniseries, having a comic book, they can see the concept. They're visually able to see that storyboard.
well, not
It's
just
a
that.
pitch
You
book.
want, go ahead. I'm sorry, man.
It's a pitch book. Comic books are very easy pitching, especially to like producers, directors, whatever, because honestly, I mean, I like reading, but I don't always want to sit down and read a 120-page script, right? But I'll flip through a 120-page comic book easy because it's
Oh,
like
yeah.
you can right?
Oh
It is,
yeah,
and you can
and
just get the story visually. It's great for high concept work. You can get a good scale on what kind of budget it's going to take to. Like I have one book that's hey, Micah, your brother's calling you. I have a book, Deal with the Devil, and it was picked up by Lionsgate. That didn't end up working out, but it's because it was like, it's a comic book. They got the idea. It's a very simple pitch, and they look through it and they're like, oh wow, this is a very I don't want to say low budget, but it's like, it doesn't. There's not a bunch of stuff blowing up. There's not a bunch of, you know what I mean. You can get a scale for what your budget's going to be, how much you're going to have to. You pick this thing up and you're flipping through it, and you're like, oh, this is a $200 million movie. Next, you know?
right. Well,
Right.
but also I think visually, for a person like me as a business person, I know that, okay, this is what you're showing me as a comic, right? Okay, this is what I'm putting money on, right? And on top of that, I want to know how many followers you have. Do you have 100,000 followers? You have 10,000 followers? Then I know, okay, if like you said, it costs $200 million, but you only got 10,000 people following your comic, the numbers are not going to match.
Right.
But if I know you have 1 million followers and you have 1 million sales, then I know the numbers will match. So to give you an example, I think Netflix did 2 comics.
I see you, Mercy
one
Grace.
game.
I'll tell him.
Huh?
You get somebody sending you messages. Somebody messages that they want to do the contribute to a GoFundMe campaign to boost donors and all that, writing through Facebook. He will get with you. Go ahead.
Okay. I
right.
gotcha. So basically what I'm saying is that what happens is you want those numbers exchanges to know the equation of whether you're going to make a movie. So I was saying Netflix did 2 comics, right? And 2 of them are big comics. One was which one? One was One Piece. One Piece took that manga comic and made it huge. It became very succcul.
Well, it's one of the biggest comic mangas in the.
Right, and then there was another one. What was it called? Where he's always in a spaceship, always, and he's a bounty hunter.
Cowboy Bebop.
Yeah, but that flopped. That flopped completely.
That show was amazing. It was.
I know, but the numbers.
Perfect.
I'm talking about numbers wise. It flopped.
Anybody that didn't like that show, it was like you were watching.
But remember, you gotta understand, Cowboy Bebop. Yes, but was it? But it flopped. It flopped. They didn't do a new season. One Piece has a new season coming out, right? So you lost. Even Bleach.
I want to be like Disney and be like they were all wrong. It was. Well, so here's the thing. People would say, man, this wasn't enough. They had the exact same person doing the soundtrack. It had the soundtrack. The characters acted just like the characters. They looked just like the characters. Their criticism was Ed was too close. They did homages to the anime episodes of it, and then they threw in new episodes to give you more stuff. Everything about the live action Cowboy Bebop was anything that anyone supposedly should have wanted it to be. Netflix also blew it out of the water with 2 of the Rurouni Kenshin movies. They made a prequel and then they made one at the end, and they followed the manga. And they are outstanding because some of the other movies that were made,
but they didn't do it. But they didn't do it. They didn't do it in English. They did it for a different demographic, right? It was not in English. It was. It was subbed. It was subbed or dubbed, whatever it was. I don't know what. Remember.
So.
Okay, my point is that not always. The point is that the risk factor is right, and that's the point. That the risk factor is pretty low when it comes to investing in a project that already has a following. So you're more guaranteed for investors to come and say, you know what, I'll put money in this project, even if it's a small budget project, right? And then because he'll know he'll get his return, at least his return will come back. And then they'll make the money on the tax credits depending on where it's filmed, right? Yeah. So at least that. And then you get a story out there, and then you'll see if the story wins or doesn't win. And if it becomes a winner, you're talking about hundreds of millions of dollars of income worldwide, potentially. Again, depends on that.
I want to say back to the comic book manga movie things. I don't believe that there has ever been a bad Hellboy movie. I think that the last one it was very B movie esque, but people said that it was like closer to the comics. I've never really read a bunch of Hellboy stuff, but I mean I think that all of the movies were solid in their own right for what they were supposed to be. That's my take on it. Mike, do you have a take on that? Are you a Hellboy follower?
I've only watched the first couple Hellboy movies, but yeah, I liked them. And I wasn't the hugest Hellboy fan of the comics. I don't know why. I like Mignola's artwork. I really couldn't tell you why I didn't.
I think the character is not friendly in a sense. Like it's too.
He's not supposed to be.
I
He's
know,
like
I get it. No,
irritated.
friendly in the eye. Like it's all red, and it's a color thing. I think you're watching someone that's his color is constantly red in an image. It doesn't jive, I believe, because there's a concept in business. You know why Starbucks has the certain color sequences that they have in the stores? Because apparently the ambiance of the colors is to make a person calm in a very high octane caffeinated area. So they need to make people calm when they walk in because it's already enough energy
Right.
when it comes to caffeine.
So
Right?
Like why McDonald's were always orange because it made people hungry.
Yeah. That's
based,
I think that's what it is. I
based
mean,
on what you said.
put aside. Put aside Mike having a red shirt. I'm just saying.
Your anti-red comment, that would be like you can't watch the Flash or the Red Hulk or whoever else wears all red because of that. It's I don't know. It's very
Maybe
I
I don't
think
know. Maybe
I think it's just very indie, but I like it. I like his character. I like that he's irritable and all that. I mean, I think that it's a likable character. Now I really like Jonah Hex. I've never watched the movie, but I hear don't, because
Don't.
apparently the movie actually hurt comic book sales.
Oh my gosh, it's
Was
bad.
it that bad?
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
it
got to see
wasn't.
it like
Yeah, it wasn't
early
so.
screening, and I was like,
Wasn't so
no.
hot
Because I
compared
like
to the
Jonah
comic.
Hex a lot, but I love westerns anyway. Mike, are you a
Yeah, me
western guy?
too.
Have you ever written a western? You've done western comics or
Six
anything?
Gun
Have you ever?
Samurai. Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. Six Gun Samurai was my western. It's about a kid who he's a six-gun sharpshooter with his mother, and she was a sharpshooter, and they had this trick, and he accidentally kills her in
Wow.
their trick shooting thing. But he and she tells him who his real father is before he passes away and wants him to go because he's only like 16 years old. And so she wants him to go live with his real father. But why it's Six Gun Samurai is because his father figure in this traveling show was this Ronin samurai who escaped Japan and was just like working, like cleaning up the cow poop and stuff in this place. But he ended up teaching this kid the way of Bushido and how to use, swords and fighting and all that stuff.
Mhm.
And so he becomes the Six Gun Samurai as they travel to go find his father.
That's awesome.
Wow.
Ben, we just published a John Russo Western called Deadtime in Deadwood, which features what he's best known for, which is zombies stuck in a Western universe, which is quite a cool concept. It's loosely based on what Russo and Romero was working on right before George died. They were kind of trying to develop basically a Night of the Living Dead the day after, another together. By going back to the original, and because that never really saw fruition, John reimagined it as a Western, and so now we published it as Deadtime in Deadwood.
That's awesome.
Wow.
Nice.
That's awesome.
As a comic or as just a novel?
It's just a novel, but it would make we have a comic looking cover on it.
Wow.
Weird West is a hugely popular genre, period. People always act like they've never heard of such things. Weird West is either horror or sci-fi, Benny. It's a Western that's got stuff in it that's not.
That's sort of bordering steampunk a little bit, in its own weird way.
Yeah.
Cowboys and Aliens.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I like that movie. I don't care what anybody says. I like that movie.
They've got some dinosaur ones. There was one really bad. I think it was like the God Monster or whatever, but its redeeming quality was that I watched it with Mystery Science Theater 3000, and they make every movie just like I love it.
Nice.
Not bad. So what any difficulties in creating product in writing and comics? I mean, I'm sure people fail as they produce or make. I mean, I don't
it's the
think
same in
everything.
any business. Marketing is the hardest part.
Right.
Right. So that's why I was part of the whole Comicsgate thing for a while. And then I don't want to talk about all that, but after that, I kind of had to regroup and come up with another plan. And so I've got a good plan. I'm continuing to develop products for the plans that I have in the future. I don't really want to
No, you don't have to disclose it.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
mean, you can talk. I'm talking
Well,
about
no, so
generalities. I'm like, people
yeah.
want to maybe would want to get into, like, listen, the idea of also Ishook Comics podcast is to get communities working together, right?
Mhm.
And having, because I always believe in collaborative social media, right? Because media is hard already as it is. And the more and more the social media grows, because, there's a huge shift coming out from TV now to media. So we're going to be competing a lot more for viewership. And
Yeah.
that competition will
I mean,
only work
and I'll tell you, this
go
kind of
ahead.
thing is difficult to grow with, right? Like live streams and long form media. It's because the ADD nature of the audience nowadays. That's why I've been doing short form, like drawing, because I can draw. I do these draw and talk over videos on my channel where I redesign characters, and the intention is like I say that everything that I do. I was telling you that I do have a vision for how I want everything to unfold in the future. Everything I do is aimed towards that. So when I'm sitting here building my YouTube channel to that end, where I want to get to 100,000 subscribers, it is for the purpose of being able to market, build out community, all that stuff,
Of
right?
course.
And then I have other avenues where I have a possibility of like being able to do more broad range advertising or whatever, develop more projects. But for me, I have a whole like multimedia concept, like you guys, like Gary, you're doing, right? But to me, like the comics are the seeds, right? And then the multimedia is like the fruit. And so I got to plant the seeds, grow the tree, get to the fruit. And so all my intellectual property is going to start out as comic books or kids books, and then down the road, I don't expect anything to happen in the next few years, but down the road, as I build that, market it out, get it into the zeitgeist, and then also at the same time build my audience here on YouTube. That's a part of the plan to get kind of
Isn't
where
isn't that
Gary's.
kind of isn't that kind of what Neil Gaiman's Sandman did? Didn't it start as a comic? Because they've got audiobooks and obviously they've got like the series and everything now.
I mean, so much did, right? I mean, Walking Dead, freaking everything at Marvel and DC. I mean,
The
right? It's like
Boys.
Right,
The
but I
Boys.
want to give a little advice for the cheat code for everyone. The cheat code is make sure you're present in every social media platform, even if the ones you don't feel like it. You should be there. You definitely, like, right now we're using Restream. Shout out to Restream. I'm able to promote this video in literally 10 channels, like the 10 channels we have, from Twitch to Facebook, and you got to just keep on doing it. If you consistently, eventually people are going to come. You're not gonna have 2 people or 4 people or 5 people live, which I don't care if it's a 2 audience or 3 audience. That's also what people get discouraged. Oh, when you start, you don't have enough. No, every ear, every eye is worth something, because later on you're gonna have more and more and more and more and more, and that's what you want. And you want the long form because you want people to eventually, those who don't have ADHD and those who are disciplined and listening, they can actually, from your short, discover you and then get to the long form and actually learn something from you. And that's really what we're trying to do here, obviously. I mean, but in general, yeah, you got to do what you're doing, Mike. You gotta hit it, because
Yeah,
if
you
you
got
don't
to
do it
grind.
now,
It
yeah,
is a
if you're not gonna
grind.
do it
Yeah,
now, you're not. How else would they know you? And it takes time. And by
that's
the way,
right.
this cheat sheet, if you're everywhere, when people are searching you, they'll find you in all these other platforms automatically. That gives you the backlinks. The backlinks are so more important. That's a way to get it for free, unless you're paying
Yeah,
for it, right?
you got
So
to
they either
create
do the
evergreen
backlinks or,
content.
yeah, that's it. I mean, that's
But
that.
the
And
thing is, the reason I focus on YouTube is I understand YouTube's algorithm, and I don't understand anybody else's algorithm.
well, Twitch is pretty
So
good. Spotify's pretty good, but you got to be
spot.
everywhere. Yeah, Spotify is good. They got videos there, long
Hmm.
form videos.
Yeah, we recently added this year, 2024. We had at Burning Bulb launched another division called Burning Bulb Sonic, where we focus on the audio component of the creative things we do.
Right.
If part of it, we got into it because of films. We were getting requests for us to do language overdubs. So we received a movie from Argentina. It was a horror movie called Los Tavistas. So we began doing a voiceover to turn it into an English speaking horror film through
Wow.
over. And then of course, you have this breakout of AI, and we became a beta tester for Amazon to test out their AI narration platforms. So we started doing some of our audiobooks now with AI to allow us to then get another group of marketing, like we were talking, you were just mentioning. Every audience, we found that there's a whole other group of people that may never sit down and read a book, but they're driving or they're commuting or they're flying somewhere, and they'd like to download something to listen to, such as a podcast. But they download a book of ours if we have a way to present it. So we started doing that, and then this broke out into not just English. We can do them in Spanish or in French or whatever.
Right? Yeah, you can
go down through the list. So we have 200 narrative books in our catalog, and that each one of them could be turned into another 200 if we make them all into Spanish, or another 200 if we make them all into French.
Right, but that's the minus with a comic, because you can't do an audio only comic.
No, but
so you lose in a comic.
That's another thing, and which is an area that I'm very interested in, the comic zone. Not so much to be the publisher of comics, but I know that was a weak area of ours. Is we were hoping to attract some of the artists when we first set out with comics. And we ended up having to, hire artists from overseas. And in both of our two initial comics, in the Talisman, Stuart Brown was from UK, and in Demon Eye, the artist was from Vietnam. So in both of those cases, I know that there's a thriving in the United States. There's a lot of artists, comic artists, but that was an area that we were deficient in. So that's why we didn't get a real good foothold in our comics, even though our heart was there, and we still like the idea of storyboarding and doing the adaptations and things like that.
Wow.
I've had the biggest success with like writing, and I don't know if y'all have been the same or not, but it's been in person at conventions, because you're interacting with people, you're talking, you're just approaching, engaging. Cover art has been instrumental in selling books. They look at the cover and they think, wow, which is why I paid what I paid to have them done. And then they read the back of it, and you're basically thinking, what do I have to write on here to forcibly make somebody buy this comic that would enjoy or book novel that would do that. So I don't have that with the comics. It's an ad. Or I'm big into flip books, which there's been a few of those lately. That my first comic was a flip book, and I just think it's neat, even if it's like a short mini comic on the back that you flip it over and it's another comic. So I don't know, is that totally niche, Mike?
No, it's universal. It's the hook, right? Everything needs the hook. It's like it's really funny, even in really, really short form stuff like reels, you have 3 seconds. That's the ADD level now. You have 3 seconds to hook someone to watch a full 30 second or minute reel, right? So for a book, your hook is your cover and your blurb, right? But whatever it is, even commercials nowadays, if you pay attention to like they're making movie commercials and stuff, they'll put a little 3 second pre-commercial of the commercial on the commercial, so you'll watch the whole commercial. Because they get it. You have to get that hook in the mouth, whatever media you're doing, and so that's what you're doing with your book cover.
Gary,
right, but I think sorry to cut you off. I think the main thing is what he said is key is the conventions. These conventions, these shows.
Oh yeah, the glad handing man. Yeah,
you need to be there, because if you notice, how did the podcasting world succeed, especially in today's market, is because now all these big podcasters like Bill Maher, and you have whatever. I'm not going to mention any other names because I don't want to touch any buttons in our viewers. But the bottom line is they're doing a lot of shows throughout the country, and that's how they're building more and more and more of followers.
Well, 2020 built a lot of that too, because people weren't going anywhere as much, and they'd sit and they'd watch videos that blew it up.
Right, that's also true, but in reality, you can't cancel a person who brings in 20, 30,000 people to their show, to a stadium. You can't cancel that. But you can cancel. You can close down a YouTube channel.
I was gonna say, Gary, that I had that wrestler that I introduced to you run up to me thanking me for introducing him to you, because you put him in one of your movies. Is he the guy that gets the raccoon strung out on crack?
I don't think that's the guy, but it is kind of it's a small world for sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Wow.
we were at like a scary festival thing, and I'm like, have you heard of Gary Lee Vincent? And it was like, and I texted Gary, of course, because you don't give people's numbers out without their permission. And Gary's like, yeah, go ahead, give him my number.
Not
Yeah.
bad. Not bad. So how do you guys take intake? Like people who want to reach out to you, like how do you know who to answer, who not to answer? Like how does that work?
I
Well,
generally, yeah, go ahead,
Go-
Carrie.
Well, the way I usually do it, I usually ask if it's a novel, and I know we're in a comic book podcast, but I'll just speak how I've been doing it sometimes. Is if it's a novel, I usually ask for a summary or the sales pitch. And I also ask what the writer intends to do to promote the novel, mainly because it can be a stellar piece of work, but I've noticed that a lot of people only want it to be published for the vanity of being published. And I hate to say it that way, but there's plenty of vanity presses out there to print their book. We actually, we're not a vanity press. We earn our money from sales of the book. So therefore we need to
Weird.
know that the
Yeah, I
person
mean, what God, what kind of person are you? You working on
I
sales?
take a lot more
What
money. I
what
really
kind of
do think
publisher?
I'd take a lot more if I was a vanity press, because we get a bunch of things every week, and I don't usually respond or take everything that comes across my desk. Usually I say, well, what are you up to? So if we don't already know the person and know that what their little niche is for marketing, that's something that I ask, is just to find out, are they doing conventions, or do they have do they have a podcast, or how are they reaching audiences? And if it's blank, no, I just was hoping you'd do it. Well, I can say we can publish a novel, but the true statistics speak for themselves. Amazon has like 10 million plus titles just there. And how will they know to find XYZ novel in the 10 million titles if they make absolutely no effort?
Well,
And
Amazon right now just it used to be that you couldn't promote books in Amazon unless it was print on demand. So now regular books are you can start doing bidding and advertising. They just released it last week.
if you there's little catches in there where they'll do a scan for keywords. And if you happen to have a banned keyword in your book, they may not let you buy the ads. We had that happen to us. We have a very prolific writer in our team called Wolverine. He's out of Nigeria, and he has some of the most edgy but yet very interesting books you'll ever read. And they're usually they'll hit hot buttons throughout the topics. Every time I would try to promote the sponsored ads for Wolverine's books, they'd come back and say, we're sorry, but this violates our content guidelines.
Wow.
So we can't win them all, but I will say he's a heck of an interesting writer.
So what about you have platform, like you have new writers and new ideas, like the Graham Hancock. You know who Graham Hancock is, right? Like his new ideas. Like these are things like, are those type of books things you guys are looking at in publishing arena or not?
Yeah, we that was how we really got into it. Was we just didn't want to be a normal publisher. We with our story, The Big Book of Bizarro, that was our kind of our introduction to the world, that we're going to take on the edgier stuff that people didn't want to touch. And even though that in a way was how we got started, we're still doing avant-garde things, even on other totally different genres like the faith genre and other things. We're basically, wherever there's a story, if it can somehow come together and it's entertaining, that people like it, then that's something we want to do. We're not just exclusive to just horror or just faith or whatever. We just we want to work with collaborators, with the fellow artists and writers and filmmakers to make the very best indie stuff that we can make.
Wow.
Gary, have you ever heard of a comic book series? And I think they said that they've reprinted them more than any other thing. And I ran across them because of Midtown Comics, got the first trade paperback, which is all 7 issues. Read it. It apparently has an enormous following. What's the name of it? Johnny the Homicidal Maniac. Have you ever heard of that?
I have not had a chance to read them, but I've heard of them. Yes.
Okay. Mike?
I've heard of it. So you're in New
Yeah,
York?
yeah. I read. You can totally tell that the person that created Invader Zim. It has those vibes. It just goes like way harder. But yeah, it's nuts. He's a homicidal maniac, and he has to keep keep painting a wall with fresh coats of blood to keep the thing that's on the other side from breaking through.
Okay,
I like
okay.
I
Stop,
like the
stop,
first
stop.
7 and
The
several after
spoiling
it's
is
weird.
coming again. Oh my goodness.
Dude, this has been do you want me to look up how long this has been? A long time, man. A long
All
time.
right, but listen.
But
we
no,
don't-
but
feel like
no,
if I ask
they
you about Sixth Sense, you're just gonna say the kid sees dead people.
Oh my
Yeah.
God. But I think Sixth Sense, literally everybody saw that one.
because he is dead.
Yeah. We get it. We get it. We
Yeah.
just spoiled the person who never watched Sixth Sense.
Well,
I'm
it
just
gives them
kidding.
a reason.
I'm just playing with you. I don't care if
No,
we spoil
I had
people.
I had people telling
I'll just
me
write.
that,
I'll
but
just write in the YouTube channel. We spoil all comics and movies.
Dude,
yeah.
Sixth Sense, that was like that great cultural moment where like nobody would talk about the end of the movie.
Yeah,
Remember that?
yeah.
You
Everybody
know
will
that
be.
Alfred Hitchcock's Psycho was that way, and they put the thing on it said,
Oh, really?
"Please do not give this movie away," because it takes a hard turn in it. It's like you're watching a movie about one thing, and then it's all of a sudden about another, and it just like threw people for a loop. And he put everything on the line for that, just like Walt Disney put everything on the line for Snow White, which that's a touchy subject now.
Yeah,
yeah,
I think they're destroying the classics in so many ways.
Yeah.
I
yeah.
think that's what they're doing.
Well,
I mean,
you
you
know
can't
that Dave,
change. Go
you know
ahead.
that Daily Wire is making their own Snow White to combat that, which it obviously it couldn't be as bad or as worse because they're mutilating the fairy tale. You know, if they just stay on line with the story, it's going to be a better story. I like the
Well,
one with what's her name that plays an alien? The woman that plays an alien,
what's it called? I
Sigourney
don't know.
Weaver.
Sigourney, she didn't
Yeah.
play
Oh,
an alien. She
in
fought aliens.
Alien. He's saying in
Okay.
Alien.
Yeah,
Not
you
an
said
alien.
play an alien. You mean
No,
play in the alien? Okay.
she was in
I'm
a
like,
Snow White movie as the Wicked Queen that came on like IFC, and it was awesome. That movie. It's called like I forget the name of it, but it's really bloody and violent version of Snow White, but it's great.
well, it's like we do in cryptocurrency. Know your customer, and what's happening is these big corporate doesn't know their customer.
That's exactly right.
You're in crypto? Have you checked out Squid Grow yet?
And no, no, I have not. I couldn't read it because it's reversed on the screen.
Oh.
Yeah. I'm like, what are you like? What's going on?
Yeah, I'm a team member on the Squid Grow team. So
Oh yeah.
yeah, it's
Oh.
have you heard of I know this is comics, but have you heard of Shibtoshi? The guy,
I think so, yeah.
that bought $8,000 worth of Shiba Inu on the first week, and it went up to 5.7 billion last market cap.
Right. And then what happened?
Cycle.
And what
He
happened?
still got it. He never sold any of it. He was already a Bitcoin. Anyway, he's the founder of Squid Grow. So.
Oh wow. I mean, we have our own token as well, SHK token, Shook token. Yeah.
Nice.
We only have 1 billion a billion issue tokens. That's it. It's all about royalty, advance and royalties in our tokens in order to create like a note of your royalty. Like we have a whole white paper on how we're using it in our social media platforms and everything.
Oh, cool. I'll check it out.
Yeah. We're also going beta hopefully this December on our exchange, ishookx.com.
Nice.
So there's a lot going on there, and we have also NFTs for Super Black and our comic and so on and so forth. Ben, by the way, wrote the whole comic, and he's our writer on our comic, Super Black.
Awesome.
Yeah. And I see Ben is a humble guy. He doesn't even say what he's on and what the projects he's in.
Only if you can spoil something.
Yeah. Well,
No,
well, he better not spoil the Super Black comic. That's for sure.
I'm not allowed to do that. You know,
Yeah.
I put out 4 comics of my own this year before I even met Benny. The first one that I put out, I had to get told Zorro kills because Zorro is trademarked. And I had a very Mexican Zorro hunting down child trafficking pedophiles, slashing them up, maiming them, killing them. And everybody loved it that read it. Even the people were like, man, this is, but we don't know that this is the direction we would want to go because it's like really R-rated. He castrates a pedophile in the middle of the streets and says, if you bleed out, you bleed out. I wrote the Zorro that I wanted to write, long and short of it.
You would like Deal with the Devil.
Oh, see, I'm gonna have to check that. But no, I mean, I'm like that's my Zorro. It's like Zorro's like a proto Batman. People are supposed to be afraid of him, and if you have it like too PG, he wears all black because he's in the night, so you can't see him.
He's
and
a
then there he
rich
steps
dude.
out of the shower. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. They have the whitewash Spaniard thing. I based him a lot off of Ricardo Montalban, because I
Oh,
thought,
yeah?
who's like a dude that could like pass for white, but that he's like a Mexican guy, and he needs to be like more alpha male. I didn't want like some femboy Zorro. So
But
I told the guy, make him hairy.
Count of Capistrano takes place before California's even a state, right? They are Mexican.
They had a thing where they were talking about how they like whitewashed Zorro. There was some book that I listened to the audiobook of, and they went through some big, like, huge spiel about it, and it was like, so it's like he's kind of Mexican, but he's not, because we're still making him white and all that. I don't know.
Side point. Wasn't Batman based on the Zorro concept? I
And
think.
the Shadow.
Somewhat, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, and gangbusters.
Yeah, the
No,
funny
that-
thing about the trademark copyright is technically Zorro, the character, is public domain
Yeah, the
because
original stories.
Count of the Capistrano came out before the deadline, but then they bundled those because it came out in a pulp magazine. Then they bundled those stories up as the Mark of Zorro, the book, which came out after the trademark.
Right. So basically,
the
you're going
Zorro,
based
the
on the book. Right.
Well, no, the name Zorro on the book is like trademark or copyright, but the character himself is not. It's really weird.
That's why you have some
really
adaptations
about making sure you don't use it.
Wow.
So Mike, let me just go ahead, because Benny's going to be really upset if I don't spoil my own comic, and I can send any one of you all.
Yeah, you spoil your own comic. I don't care.
A free PDF of it. Just not the super black one. But so anyway, in Zorro, he had decapitated a guy earlier, in the main bad guy, and I had asked a coworker, I said, who's somebody that really looks like a trashy, scummy gangster? So I told the guy, send him pictures of people to make him look like. So the main villain, the drawing of him, is based after Hunter Biden. And so he says, what did you do to the guy to decapitate him? And he pulls a machete out of his like shirt, and he goes full on like original Friday the 13th, the slow motion like decapitation, and that's how he takes the guy out. And on the last page, he rides the kids off into freedom. All of the kids are unharmed, unscathed, probably PTSD. But aside from that, everything's great. And there's like 2 decapitated guys and several that are dead. The one that got castrated, also, he slashes a Z across his face, and like the one line goes right through his eyes, because why wouldn't you do that? You think I need to read that book? Would I be down with it?
I don't know. I think it's too graphic, in my opinion.
Dude, it's all in black and white too. The thing that I did, but yeah,
black, white, and red.
Yeah, it's 22 pages, and it's a nice full story, and I was so excited, so enthused about it, that I wrote a second script. But
so does it take place back during?
Oh yeah, like in the Old West.
See, I have a story I wrote called "The Legacy of Zorro," which I can't call that, but basically it's the great grandson of Diego de la Vega, and he finds the Zorro cave and becomes Z, which is his modern. It's my modern take on.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you could, but you have to run it by them and everything like that. They're just not going to.
Why not just buy the license? Buy the license.
No, you have to meet certain guidelines with it, because they own like all those right. That's like Spider-Man. I couldn't just do whatever I want with Spider-Man, even if Marvel said, hey, you can write Spider-Man. You're not allowed to do that. Like they say that they don't want to marry Mary Jane. Now, but hey, anyway, in my second one that I didn't write the script for, that I guess is never going to be a thing because they're not letting me do stuff. I could do it and put it up for free, but I'm not going to shell out the money on that. It's a knockdown, drag out fight with 6-gun gorilla. I don't know if you know who that is. He's a gorilla with guns.
You know what? You could call it Nero, and just say it's an N.
That's a good idea, actually.
Yeah.
A cursive.
Yeah, that would make sense.
I just don't know.
That would make sense, by the way. Why not? Why not? It follows with Matrix's name, Nero.
Yeah. Benny's going to be so. Benny's like, just shut up. I'm paying for the comic. It's written. It's I wrote it because I thought, how am I going to follow this? And I thought, I would like to have Zorro get in a really knockdown drag out fight on, like the steamer paddle boats, because I like that. So I have him going down a river in California and all this. So I'm looking at geography and everything because I'm obsessed. But yeah.
Oh, there's another point about that is, did you know that the Zorro with the mask is copywritten, right? Because it's from, whatever studio made the movies and the whatnot. But the mask in Count of the Capistrano, it's like, you remember Grifter from Wildcats? It's basically a handkerchief. It's like a handkerchief that drapes down over your whole face, and it's got two eyes in it. That's the Zorro mask in the book.
Quentin Tarantino did that in his, where he teams up with Django.
Oh,
They've
really?
got the mask that goes down like that. Yeah, it's on the covers. Dynamite did them.
Yeah, that's the original. I think my Horseman book is being delivered right now.
Ooh.
All right. Anyway, we gotta go, guys. First of all, we gotta go. We gotta
Oh,
go.
awesome.
We're up
Thank
to the
you so
hour.
much.
So I'd like to thank
Plug their stuff before you get up, Vinny.
Yeah, one second. So I want to first let's go one step at a time. I would like to, since we introduced Gary first, we're gonna take out Mr. Miller. So we'd like to say thank you to Mike Miller and his new crypto ventures. If you watch the show, plus Lodestar, support his comics. We appreciate him. To be continued. We can do this another time, anytime you guys are available. And then, of course, our good friend Gary Vincent. We appreciate his work and his company, Burning Bulb. And I want to talk to him about maybe a potential book I want to discuss, maybe privately. I'll tell Ben to discuss it with you, and we'll see if you guys are available for that. And then, of course, don't forget to support our Super Black comic. Right now, it's on Indiegogo. It's going to go out either way. Our team is financing it. We will be in future events. And then do not forget, buy a new Super Black. Where is it? Super Black hoodie. I think that's the wrong price. It's $52, not $53. But either way, it's there. We'll honor it. Just go for it. We'll give you some credit after that. But here's our Super Black comic. And then you also have our posters. All right. Everyone can take that a point. And thank you again. And hopefully we'll be in touch, everybody. I wish you all the best. And guys, thank you for joining us. And it's called Squid Grow.
Squid Grow,
guys.
Check
So please check it out. And don't forget, our cryptocurrency exchange is launching beta in December. We're going to announce it. Plus SHK available in LA Token and a few other token sites. Ishook.io, Ishook.me, and our whole Ishook ecosystem. And we appreciate everybody for coming on Ishook Comics Podcast. Thank you. And much success.
Thursday at 6:30, we will be back. Thursday.
Yes, next week. Next week,
not
Thanksgiving.
Not
Thanksgiving.
Y'all just watch this show.
I wish we could do it, but it all depends on it. I'll be with my cigar and my turkey. Okay, what's going on, guys?
Hey, incidentally, lest anybody wonder who we got scheduled, there's a young man who's been making comics for a good little while. He put out a character named Nexus in the same year that I was born. Mike Barron will be with us.
Nice.
Awesome.
Say hi to Mike for me.